Nadir was on his knees, his hands clasped tightly together, his voice trembling with desperation as he begged his cousin and closest friend, Fawad, for help. Please, my brother, don't turn your back on me now. You've always stood by me in every hardship, every trial. How can you abandon me in this one? I know I've made mistakes, but do I really deserve to be left alone when my entire life is falling apart? His words tumbled out in a mixture of regret, fear, and pleading, his eyes wide with helplessness. Fawad, seated on the edge of the bed with his arms folded, looked at Nadir with a firm and almost cold expression. He shook his head slowly and replied, I can help you in many ways, Nadir. I have always supported you, even when others walked away, but in this matter I cannot and I will not interfere. What you are asking me to do is wrong, so wrong that it will only bring more shame and pain, not relief. This is your problem, and you must face it yourself. His tone was final, laced with disappointment, as though he had already made his decision. For a moment, silence filled the room except for Nadir's shaky breaths. He rose to his feet, shoulders slumped, his steps heavy with defeat. He turned to leave, but as he reached the door, a sudden thought flashed across his mind like lightning. He paused, then spoke with a bitter edge. Fine. If you will not help me, then I will go to someone else. I don't know if I can trust them, but at least they might give me a way out. This struck Fawad like a dagger. He turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. The idea of Nadir taking such a personal family issue to outsiders made him uneasy. His voice grew louder, tinged with anger. Stop right there, Nadir. Don't you dare take this shame outside these walls. Do you have no sense left? Do you want the whole world to mock our family? Don't you understand that our dishonor will spread like wildfire if this becomes public? Nadir turned back, hope flickering in his broken expression. He could sense that his words had finally pierced through Fawad's wall of resistance. After a tense pause, Fawad exhaled heavily and said, Fine, I will do what you're asking, but this is the last time. You've ruined enough with your temper, Nadir. I'm warning you. Control your anger, or one day it will destroy everything you claim to love. Nadir's face lit up with relief. He rushed forward and embraced Fawad tightly, whispering, I promise, my friend. I will change. I will control myself from now on. Just give me this chance to make things right with Zara. In that moment, Fawad agreed to carry a burden that would soon test the boundaries of love, loyalty, and morality, setting into motion events that none of them could have predicted. After leaving Fawad's room, Nadir's heart raced with both relief and urgency. He had secured Fawad's reluctant support, and now all that remained was convincing Zara, the woman he had wronged more than anyone. His steps were quick, almost frantic, as he made his way toward her room. He rehearsed words in his mind, apologies laced with promises, prayers, and desperate vows. This time, he told himself, he would make her believe that he had truly changed. Inside Zara's room, the atmosphere was heavy with silence. She sat on the floor, her back against the wall, her face streaked with tears. Her once bright eyes were swollen and red from hours of weeping. Strands of hair had fallen loose around her face, sticking to her cheeks. Her clothes were torn in places, stained with blood from the harsh beating she had endured. The deep bruise on her cheek and the dried blood at the corner of her lip told a story of cruelty no words could soften. Her fragile frame trembled under the weight of both physical pain and emotional devastation. When Nadir entered, Zara didn't even lift her head. She stared blankly at the floor as if his presence meant nothing to her anymore. But Nadir dropped to his knees in front of her, clutching her hands with trembling fingers. His voice broke as he whispered, Zara, please. Look at me. I know I've hurt you, more than anyone ever should. I lost myself to my anger, to my pride. But I swear, I'm begging you for another chance. Give me the chance to make things right, to heal the wounds I caused. Zara flinched at his touch, pulling her hands away as tears welled up again. Her voice was hoarse but steady. Enough, Nadir. I don't want to hear it. You were my husband once, and I endured everything because I believed it was my duty. But you broke that bond yourself when you gave me divorce. You set me free. I will not go back to chains disguised as marriage. Her words cut like steel, carrying the strength of truth born from suffering. But Nadir wasn't ready to surrender. He lowered his head to her feet, resting his forehead on the ground in front of her. His body shook with sobs as he pleaded, "If not for me, then forgive me for yourself. Don't let bitterness poison your heart. Let me earn back your trust. I will spend my life proving I can be different. Please, just one more chance." Zara looked at him with weary eyes. For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by Nadir's desperate cries. She knew she should refuse, but deep inside, a battle raged, a battle between the pain of the past and the faint hope of redemption. After a long pause, her lips parted, and in a voice barely above a whisper, she agreed to a path that would soon reshape all of their lives. Zara's quiet consent, though hesitant, sent a wave of relief through Nadir. He lifted his head from the floor, his eyes shining with gratitude, though his heart still quivered with fear of losing her forever. But Zara quickly set boundaries. When Nadir tried to embrace her, she raised her hand, stopping him. "Not now, Mshisoy," she said firmly, her voice low but unwavering. "You divorced me, Nadir. Right now you are not my husband. You have no right to touch me. Until things are made right, until faith and law permit, keep your distance." The words stung, but Nadir nodded, clenching his fists to stop the frustration boiling within him. He knew she was right. For the first time in his life, he forced himself to control his impulses. "Fine," he whispered. "I will wait. I will do whatever it takes. I promise you, Zara, this time I will prove I am worthy of you." He left the room with a strange mixture of hope and humiliation. Outside, his mother and sisters were waiting impatiently. Their eyes lit up when he told them that Zara had finally agreed to the arrangement, that she would marry Fawad first, and then, once divorced, she would return to him. His sisters clapped in delight, whispering to each other about how Zara's presence in the household would continue to ease their burdens. His mother smiled, satisfied that the family's honor, and more importantly, their convenience, would remain intact. For them, Zara was not just a woman. She was the worker, the caretaker, the one who silently bore their cruelty while still fulfilling her duties. They had no concern for her tears, her wounds, or her dignity. Meanwhile, inside her room, Zara prepared herself with trembling hands. She bathed and changed into a fresh cotton suit, her modesty intact but her spirit bruised. She wrapped her hair into a simple bun and laid out a scarf across her shoulders. Sitting quietly, she pressed her forehead to the prayer mat and prayed with all her heart. "God, if this is my path, then give me strength. Do not let me fall into despair again. Show me light where I only see darkness." The afternoon passed with nervous anticipation. As the call to Asar prayer echoed, arrangements were finalized. Fawad was brought into Zara's presence. He sat respectfully across from her, his posture straight, his eyes heavy with responsibility. Zara's face remained lowered, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She felt as if the walls were closing in, suffocating her, reminding her of the choices that had led her here. When the Qazi finally arrived with the witnesses, the air turned solemn. Nadir stood by the door, a silent flame of impatience burning in his chest. As the ceremony began, Zara's heart pounded against her ribs, each question from the Qazi weighing heavier than the last. With tears in her eyes and trembling lips, she whispered the words of consent. The ink dried on the paper, sealing her new marriage with Fawad. In that moment, Zara felt her heart shatter once more. It was not the relief Nadir had promised, nor the safety her soul longed for. It was only another chain added to her weary existence. The ink on the contract was barely dry when Zara felt the full weight of her decision settle on her shoulders. Though the room was filled with murmurs of approval and congratulatory words, she felt utterly alone. Her trembling hands still held the pen that had signed away her future, and her eyes blurred with tears. This was not a choice made of love or freedom, but one of desperation and coercion. Her new husband, Fawad, sat quietly across from her, his expression thoughtful, almost conflicted. Zara remembered the respect he had always shown her in the past, the way he never once crossed boundaries, even when others in the house mocked her or treated her cruelly. Now, with the solemn declaration of marriage between them, she wondered what his heart truly felt. Did he see this union as a duty, a burden, or something more? As evening fell, Nadir's sisters ushered Zara toward Fawad's room, their eyes filled with excitement, as though they had just placed a pawn on a chessboard exactly where they wanted it. This is your place now, one of them whispered, almost mockingly, pushing Zara forward before closing the door behind her. Zara froze at the threshold. The room seemed both familiar and alien, its silence thick with expectation. She felt her knees weaken and she longed to turn back, to beg for escape, but escape had long since been taken from her. She stepped inside slowly, her scarf trembling in her hands. Fawad was already in the room, sitting at the edge of the bed with his head bowed. When he looked up, Zara noticed something she hadn't expected. Calmness, not urgency. He didn't approach her with hunger in his eyes or entitlement in his posture. Instead, he stood respectfully, gesturing toward the prayer rug on the floor. "You can pray if you'd like," he said softly. "I'll give you space." Zara's heart skipped a beat. She nodded silently, grateful for the reprieve, and moved to the rug. Her hands shook as she raised them in prayer, her voice breaking with every whispered plea. She prayed for strength, for dignity, for some small mercy that might make sense of the chaos in her life. When she finished, she turned to find Fawad still sitting quietly, his gaze lowered. He hadn't moved closer, nor had he spoken another word. His restraint unsettled her, but it also eased a small part of her heart. For the first time that day, she felt that perhaps someone still saw her as a person, not just a tool or a possession. Yet the night loomed large ahead. Questions swirled in her mind. Would Fawad honor his word and free her after this? Would Nadir truly wait, or would he force her again into the same endless cycle? As she lay down that night, exhaustion overtaking her, one thought consumed her. Life had pushed her into another cage, but perhaps, just perhaps, this cage held the faintest light of respect. The night stretched on in heavy silence, the air thick with unspoken fears. Zara sat at the edge of the bed, clutching the corner of her dupatta, unsure of what to expect. Every past experience had taught her that men in her life only demanded, never asked, and rarely cared. Yet here sat Fawad, quietly lost in thought, showing no sign of haste. At last, he broke the silence. His voice was calm but firm, the kind that steadied rather than frightened. "Zara," he said, "look at me." Her eyes lifted hesitantly, meeting his gaze. There was no trace of ridicule, no anger, no hidden agenda, only sincerity. He continued, "I know this situation is not what you wanted. Believe me, it isn't what I wanted either. But I could not stand by and watch Nadir drag someone else into this cruel arrangement. If I had refused, he would have found another man, perhaps one who would not treat you with respect." Zara's lips trembled. "So you married me out of pity?" Her words carried more pain than accusation. Fawad shook his head. "Not pity. Protection. You deserve someone to step in, and at that moment, it had to be me. But hear me clearly, your future will not be decided by anyone except you. If you wish to end this marriage tomorrow, I will not stop you. If you wish to stay, I will honor you as my wife in every sense. The choice will always be yours." The honesty in his tone unsettled Zara. For so long, her life had been controlled by others, by her parents when she rebelled, by Nadir when she surrendered to him, and by the family when they treated her as a servant. To be told that she could choose, that her voice mattered, was both liberating and terrifying. Tears welled in her eyes, and she whispered, "You don't understand. I've lived through too much to believe such words easily. Every promise made to me before has turned to dust. Why should yours be any different?" Fawad's expression softened. He leaned forward slightly, careful not to breach her space. "Then let me prove it. Not through words, but through actions. Time will tell you who I am. Until then, you owe me nothing." For the first time in months, Zara felt her chest loosen. The weight pressing on her heart eased, if only slightly. She looked away, wiping her tears, but inside her, a fragile seed of hope had been planted. That night, they slept under the same roof, separated by silence, yet bound by an unspoken understanding. This was no ordinary marriage. It was a test of dignity, trust, and whether broken souls could find strength in one another. The next morning dawned with an uneasy calm. Zara busied herself in the small kitchen, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared tea. Fawad had already left for the mosque at sunrise, returning soon after with a quiet greeting. He did not pry into her thoughts, nor did he burden her with questions. His calm presence only deepened her confusion. Was this really the same man she had known all these years as Nadir's cousin? While she tried to settle into this strange new rhythm, Nadir's world was unraveling. He paced outside their house, restless and frustrated, unable to accept the reality that Zara now belonged to someone else. Every fiber of his being burned with jealousy. He had convinced himself that last night was a temporary inconvenience, that Fawad would fulfill the formal requirement and return Zara to him. But when hours passed without news, his patience snapped. By mid-morning, he barged into the courtyard without knocking. His face was flushed with anger, his voice sharp. "Where is Zara?" he demanded, ignoring Fawad, who had just stepped into the room. Fawad blocked his path, his voice steady. "She is inside. And from now on, you will not barge into this house as if you own it. Zara is my wife. Respect that boundary." Nadir's eyes widened, disbelief and rage colliding inside him. "Your wife? Don't be ridiculous. This was never meant to last. It was a matter of one night, and you know it. Hand her back to me now before this gets ugly." Zara, who had heard the shouting, appeared at the doorway. Her face was pale, but her voice carried unexpected strength. "Nadir, listen to me carefully. I agreed to that arrangement because I thought I had no choice. But now I see the truth. I am not a commodity to be passed around, not your possession to reclaim. Whatever happened between us is over. From this moment forward, I choose my own path." Her words cut through the tension like a blade. For a moment, silence fell. Then Nadir clenched his fists, his voice cracking with desperation. "You can't do this to me. I gave you everything. I fought for you, defied my own family for you. And now you choose him over me?" Zara's eyes filled with tears, but her resolve did not waver. "You gave me pain, Nadir. You gave me bruises and fear. Fawad has given me dignity. That is why I choose him." Fawad stood tall beside her, his presence a shield. Nadir's rage boiled, but he could do nothing. With a furious curse, he stormed out, leaving behind a storm that was far from over. The atmosphere in the house remained tense after Nadir stormed out. Zara sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling as she clutched her dupatta tightly. Fawad poured her a glass of water and placed it beside her, his calmness a contrast to the storm brewing outside. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "He will try to stir chaos, but you are not alone anymore." His words soothed her aching heart, though fear still lingered in her eyes. By afternoon, the inevitable happened. Nadir returned, but this time he wasn't alone. His mother and sisters followed him, their expressions sharp and accusatory. The women entered the house without hesitation, their eyes narrowing at Zara as if she were an enemy rather than a daughter-in-law. "Zara," Nadir's mother began in a cold, commanding voice, "you have brought shame to this family. You were always meant for Nadir. What foolishness is this? Choosing Fawad over your husband? Do you think God will forgive you for destroying your marriage?" Zara stood silently, her chest tightening. Nadir's sisters joined in, their words cruel and cutting. "You were only ever kept here because of Nadir's love. You ate our bread, lived under our roof, and now you repay us with betrayal? Shame on you." Fawad stepped forward, his voice firm but respectful. "Enough. Is not a burden, nor is she your property. You talk of betrayal, yet none of you mention the pain Nadir inflicted on her. You all saw it, but chose silence. If you want to point fingers, point them at yourselves." His words silenced the room for a moment. But Nadir's mother, unwilling to accept defeat, hissed, "Fawad, you are betraying your own blood. Brothers don't snatch each other's wives. You will be cursed for this." Zara finally found her voice. Her tears flowed freely, but her tone was steady. "I never wanted my life to come to this. I fought for Nadir's love when my parents warned me against him. I left everything behind to stand by him. What did I get in return? Bruises, insults, and 3 words that shattered my world. You call me shameless, but the shame belongs to those who never stopped him, never protected me." The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Even Nadir shifted uneasily, his anger momentarily muted. Fawad placed a hand gently on Zara's shoulder, signaling his unwavering support. Seeing their accusations crumble, Nadir's mother and sisters exchanged bitter glances. They realized Zara was no longer the weak girl they could easily corner. Still, their eyes promised more conflict, for this battle was far from over. After that heated confrontation, Zara's heart felt strangely lighter. For the first time, she had spoken her truth without fear of consequences. Fawad's support gave her courage she never thought she possessed. That night, as they sat in silence, he whispered, "You've carried this pain for too long. Now you don't have to carry it alone. I'm here." His words soothed her soul, and for the first time in years, Zara fell asleep without the burden of dread. The following days brought a fragile calm. Nadir, though furious, seemed to retreat, licking his wounds in silence. His mother and sisters still eyed Zara with bitterness whenever they visited, but their sharp tongues had grown quieter since Fawad's firm stand. Within the walls of their modest home, Zara and Fawad began to build an unspoken rhythm. He treated her not like a broken woman who needed pity, but like a partner whose dignity mattered. He would listen to her, ask her opinion on small things, and even share lighthearted stories from his workplace, hoping to draw a smile from her lips. Zara, however, struggled with guilt. Every time she saw Fawad's kindness, she remembered her impulsive decision to marry Nadir against her family's advice. She recalled the years she had wasted, the bruises she had hidden, and the tears she had swallowed. Her past clung to her like a shadow, but Fawad's steady presence slowly began to peel away that darkness. One evening, as she prepared tea, Zara hesitantly asked, "Why did you take such a risk for me? You knew this would turn the whole family against you." Fawad smiled faintly. "Because I couldn't watch you suffer anymore. I grew up seeing the way Nadir treated you. I tried to warn him, to guide him, but he never listened. When he divorced you, I knew he didn't deserve you. If standing beside you makes me an enemy to others, then so be it. At least I'll be at peace with myself." Her eyes welled up. For so long, she had been starved of respect and compassion that these simple words felt like a balm. She realized she had misjudged him, believing initially that he had married her only to protect the family's reputation. But now she saw that his choice came from sincerity and conviction. Still, a looming fear gnawed at her heart. Nadir's obsession. She knew he wouldn't let go so easily. His pride had been wounded, and men like him rarely accepted defeat without retaliation. The thought kept her awake at night, even as Fawad reassured her. Zara clung to hope, but deep down she knew that another storm was approaching, one that would test their bond more fiercely than ever before. The storm Zara feared arrived sooner than expected. Just a week after she and Fawad had begun settling into a fragile routine, Nadir appeared at the house unannounced. His face was twisted with rage, his fists clenched, and his eyes bloodshot. He banged on the door so violently that Zara's heart nearly leapt out of her chest. Fawad stepped forward calmly, shielding her as he opened the door. "What do you want, Nadir?" Fawad asked in a firm but even tone. "What do I want?" Nadir barked, pushing against the doorway as though he might force his way inside. "You stole my wife! You tricked me, and now you've ruined my honor. I gave her a divorce in anger, yes, but she is mine. Oh, the bun. No one else has the right to her." Zara trembled behind Fawad, but she didn't hide this time. She stepped out, her voice steady despite the quiver in her hands. "I am not yours anymore, Nadir. You ended our marriage with your own words. You broke my trust with your own hands. You don't get to claim me now." Her courage only fueled his fury. "You think you can speak to me like this? You were nothing without me. I took you in when your family rejected you. You owe me everything." Zara's voice cracked, but her resolve didn't falter. "No, Nadir. I owe you nothing. You gave me scars, not love. You gave me fear, not respect. I don't belong to you anymore, and I never will." For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the sound of Nadir's heavy breathing. Fawad tightened his grip on the doorframe, ready to act if he lunged. "Leave, Nadir," he warned. "This house is not yours. Zara's choice is not yours. You need to accept that." But Nadir was beyond reason. His pride had been wounded too deeply. "You'll regret this, both of you," he spat, pointing a shaking finger at them. "I'll make sure you do." With that, he stormed away, his footsteps echoing like thunder retreating into the distance. When the door finally shut, Zara collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. "He won't stop, Fawad," she whispered. "He's going to come back. I know him." Fawad knelt beside her, taking her hands gently in his. "Then let him come. We will face him together. You're not alone anymore, Zara. Whatever he tries, we will stand against it. His words were steady, but deep down, even Fawad knew the truth. Nadir's threat was not empty. It was the promise of a man who would do anything to reclaim control, no matter the cost. Nadir's threats did not fade into silence. Over the following days, he returned again and again, sometimes shouting outside the gate, sometimes sending his sisters to plead on his behalf, other times spreading rumors in the neighborhood about Zara's betrayal. His desperation turned uglier with each passing day. Zara lived in constant fear that he might do something reckless, but Fawad remained her anchor. Truth always outlives lies, he reminded her, though he too grew weary of Nadir's relentless attempts. One night, Nadir crossed the line. He forced his way into the yard, shouting Zara's name, demanding that she come back to him. Neighbors gathered, drawn by the commotion, and whispers rippled through the crowd. Fawad confronted him at the gate, standing tall, his voice calm but commanding. Nadir, this ends tonight, Fawad said. You humiliated Zara, divorced her, and discarded her dignity. Now you cannot stomach the fact that she has found respect elsewhere. This is not about love, it's about your pride. The neighbors murmured in agreement. Nadir's face flushed with shame, but he still tried to argue. She was mine first. She is my wife. Zara stepped forward, her voice rising above his. No, Nadir. You ended that bond. Marriage is built on trust and kindness, and you shattered both. I am not your possession. I am a human being, deserving of respect, deserving of peace. You lost that right the day you raised your hand against me. Her words struck deeper than any weapon. For the first time, Nadir had no retort. The crowd's eyes burned into him, silent judgment from every corner. His shoulders sagged, his rage collapsing into something that looked like defeat. Muttering curses under his breath, he stormed away into the night, swallowed by the darkness. In the quiet that followed, Zara trembled. Fawad placed a steady hand on her shoulder. You've spoken the truth in front of everyone. He cannot take that away now. His grip is broken, weeks turned into months. Nadir never returned. Whispers in the neighborhood faded, replaced by respect for Zara's courage and admiration for Fawad's unwavering loyalty. Slowly, Zara's wounds, both visible and hidden, began to heal. With Fawad's support, she rebuilt her confidence, pursued her education again, and even reconnected with her estranged family, who finally embraced her back into their lives after realizing the depth of her suffering. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with soft orange hues, Zara sat beside Fawad on the balcony of their modest home. She looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. You saved me, not just from Nadir, but from losing myself. Fawad smiled gently. No, Zara. You saved yourself. You found the strength to stand, to speak, to fight for your dignity. I only stood beside you. For the first time in years, Zara's heart felt light. She knew trials might still come, but she was no longer trapped in fear. She had chosen respect over abuse, truth over lies, and in that choice, she had reclaimed her life.